All right, this is a tutorial on right triangle similarity. Excuse me. Right triangle similarity. Let me write this down. So right triangle similarity. What this basically means is that when you have a right triangle with the right angle here, and you draw an altitude down to create another right angle, you create three triangles. You have one here, one, two, and then the big one. Okay. Now, splitting this up is actually complicated, which some of your teachers have done, but there are three ratios that I'm just going to give to you, which will make things really easy, okay? So you just have to know this components. This is, we'll call this side A, we'll call this part B, C, D, and E. Now, you can mess up the letters, or you can change up the letters any way you want. These are just to designate, okay? All right, so three ratios come out, and you should remember your teacher saying something like these are certain sides are geometric means, okay? And the geometric means are D, C, and E, okay? And they're the means of two particular sides of this triangle. But again, without going to the explanation in depth, because you have to split up all three triangles and rearrange it and see which sides correspond to which side, just memorize these three equations. Number one, the bottom left, we're going to call this the left side. Imagine this to be like a house. This is like the bottom left, so that this is A. A is proportional to C, which is the height, and C is proportional to the right side of the house, B. Okay, so A over C, C over B. That's this equation right here. The second equation that you need to memorize, think of it like this. If this is a house, okay, this is the left side of the house, the floor of the left side. The floor of the left side corresponds to the roof of the left side. So it'd be A over D equals D over the whole floor, A plus B. And the third equation is very similar to number two. Instead of using the left side of the house, we're going to use the right side of the house. This is B right here, okay? So B, the left, the right side of the house, the floor of the right side to the roof of the right side. So B over E equals E over A plus B. Okay, so as long as you know these three equations, and which side which corresponds to which side, you're good to go for any of these problems that we're going to look at right now. Okay, so so looking at a situation like this, and you're trying to figure out, okay, what side can I solve? Well, look at the components. You have the left side, you have the height, and you have the right side. That fits in with this equation right over here. Left side, height, and the right side. So you're going to use this setup. Left side over the height equals the height over the right side. A over C equals C over B. So this is technically like, this is like the letter A, this is like the letter B, and this right here is like the letter C. So you're just gonna write it out like that. A over C equals C over B. So if you put the actual dimensions in there, you'll write it like this. 8 over X equals X over 4. And then you just solve it. Cross multiply. 8 times 4 is 32, or x squared equals 32. And then you square root both sides, like that. And x is equal to, and you can simplify this. You can split it up into two numbers that multiply into 32, where one of them is a perfect square, 16 times 2. So x is equal to 4 radical 2, and that's the answer for the letter x. Well, how do you solve for the letter z? Easy. We want that one. Okay, and notice we want to find that one using what components here? Well, look at the roof. Okay, it corresponds to the letter D. So if you take a look at this equation right here, you'll notice the floor to the roof. So it'd be like A to D and D to A plus what? A plus B. So you can utilize this equation and fit D, A, and B in there. Okay, so you're looking for which equation, which one of these three will have all the information that you need to find Z. So we have Z, which we're calling it as the roof. The bottom floor is 8, and then the floor to the right is 4. So this will be Z, not Z, sorry, 8. Let me erase this. So it'll be 8 over Z equals Z over 8 plus 4, which is 12. 8 over Z equals z over 12, and then you just cross multiply and solve. So this will be z squared equals 8 times 12. Now I'm not going to multiply it out. I'm going to just write it like this. 8 times what? 12. And then when you take the square root of both sides, okay, if you simplify this, this will become something like 8 is like 4 and 2. 12 is like 4 and 3. You have two of the same exact numbers. You can bring that out, and the rest stays inside. So this would be 4 radical 6. Okay, and that's your answer for the letter Z. Same thing for the letter Y. We're going to utilize this equation right over here. Okay, this one, Y. Because notice BE and E over A plus B, that's B, this component here to the roof, and then it utilizes the whole thing. That setup is the same thing as this setup right here. So we got 4 over Y equals Y over 8 plus 4, and then you cross multiply, you get Y squared equals 4 times what? 12. And if you square root both sides, you get 4 comma 12, but you can simplify this as 4 times 4 times 3. All I did was rewrite 12 as 4 and 3. You have two of the exact same numbers, they'll come out. So this will be Y equals 4 radical 3. Okay. All right, I'm going to do one more and call it a night because I need to get going to my next student. All right, so like number 42. Okay. So now again, we have the left side, height, and the right side of the house. So the setup will be this: 5 over Y equals Y over what? 12. And you can solve that one out. What about for the letter X? So again, you're going to utilize the second equation, or I'm sorry, the third equation, which is this one right over here. Okay, E represents the right side of the house, the roof. B, the floor, and then okay, and just set up like this: floor to the roof, roof to the whole floor. Okay, so floor to the roof, so 12 to X equals X over 5 plus what? 12, and just you can simplify that out. Okay, I'm just going to rewrite, I'll just write out the equations for these, okay? So now for this one, you'll notice if you do 2 over Y equals Y over X, as I told you, you never want to have two unknown variables in one equation. So you can't solve for this. You have to solve for something else and then solve for this later. Well, what can we solve? Well, you'll notice that in this situation, you have a right triangle right over what? Right there, okay? Well, okay, here, look. Let's just imagine you're trying everything and it doesn't work. You have this equation, which is like the number 1. You have a second equation, which utilizes 2 and 4. So you're going to put 2 to 4 equals 4 over 2 plus X. And then the third one, X to Z equals Z over 2 plus what? X, okay? And then you're looking at this and you're thinking, I can't solve for any of these because each equation have two unknown variables. Oh, actually no, except for this one. Wait, what's this one? 2 over 4. Oh yeah, definitely we can solve for what? This one right over here, okay? This one has X and Z unknown. This one has X and Y unknown. You want to solve for the one with only one missing letter, okay? Or one missing variable. So we're going to go ahead and solve for number 2. Now, if you step back, if you notice right here, you see a right triangle. You can actually use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for this piece right over here and write, 2 squared plus Y squared equals 4 squared, and now that should give you Y. Okay, but again, what you do is just write all 3 equations out and ask which one can I solve for first. Solve for this one, solve for X, plug it in, and then you can solve for the rest afterwards. Okay. All right. I hope that helps. The rest you should know how to do. When it says here, use a scale factor of 2, just multiply by 2. If the center's off, you have to plug that into an equation. And yeah, the rest you should know how to do. Okay. Good night.